2 p.m. and we'll call the special commission meeting to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Waldridge,
Present.
Commissioner Tippett,
Here.
Commissioner Wissman, Commissioner Sauer,
Here.
Mayor May.
Here, and for the record, Commissioner Wissman just called to let me know he was having trouble with the connection. He's going to try to call in on his phone. Let's see, we have one item, second reading of the ordinance regarding revenue to be received. And I'll say in years past, I'd always advocate hard for a 5% raise. We know that certainly those days are not going to allow us to revisit that at this particular time, but I'm always for taking care of our employees, especially during this pandemic when we've continued to provide services on a 24-hour basis, particularly our firefighters and EMTs, paramedics, police officers, and our dispatchers. All of our folks in those agencies, emergency management, have been out around the clock trying to keep the community safe and provide the day-to-day services. Just because we have a pandemic and we have an emergency situation, the day-to-day stuff, folks, continues. And our public works, sewer department, parks, planning, all of our departments, finance, everybody, every department is working hard. So I'm always proud to be able to, there's commissioners, to be able to give what we can to take care of those folks that are taking care of our community. So I'm always, we'll certainly go with the commission's wishes, but I'm always for the highest amount that we can afford to give our employees in any type of cost of living allowance. So we had each ordinance get its first reading for the 1%, the 1.5%, and the 2% COLA. So any of those are ready to go. And we'll open it up if anyone wants to make a
Mayor,
Commissioner Tippett.
correct me if I'm wrong, didn't the interim city manager make a recommendation that we go with the 1%? Please disabuse me of that thought if that's the case. And if that is the case, I'll make a motion to accept the 1%.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Tippett. Is there a second? Excuse me.
Second.
Okay. Second by Commissioner Sauer. Discussion. Any members wish to discuss? Commissioner Sauer, go ahead.
Is Alicia Boyd on?
Yes. Just wait for she to, there she is. Boyd.
Alicia, could you run through the numbers for us, how much it costs and where we are with all the different percentages?
Okay, so a 1%, are you talking about the COLA, sir? Is that what
Yes.
you're wanting? Okay. So a 1% COLA increase would be approximately $139,000 to the general fund and a little bit over $15,000 to the sewer fund. A 1.5% COLA increase would be approximately $204,000 to the general fund and another almost $23,000 to the sewer fund. And then a 2% COLA increase would be approximately $272,000 to the general fund and another $30,000 to the sewer fund, and that would be based on the remaining 17 pay periods that get us through the end of the year.
Last question, Ms. Boyd. You provided us with a occupational tax, state occupational tax comparison with the fourth quarter that we just finished or just received compared to the fourth quarter of last year and the difference.
For the now what I provided you just recently, of course, was the state's amount, and we're still down quite a bit. That was 1.2 million roughly, about what we got in the last quarter. And I'm actually, I pulled it up just because I figured that Commissioner Sauer would ask me this question, and I've already updated it. So if you look at the amount of occupational tax for the businesses that we received between July and October of 2019 versus July through October of 2020, we're actually up around $200,000 in business occupational tax this year over last year. So we're right on target. We have not seen the drop off in business occupational tax like we did with the state tax, but now the state tax is still down quite a bit. We did estimate, being down at least $1.7 million or so with the state tax, and to date we've only received I think around 2.4 million of the state's amount of the state tax amount versus if you'll give me just 1 second, I can tell you. So we've received with the July payment, I'm looking at my computer, sorry, with the July payment and the October payment for 2020, we've received a little over $2.4 million, but those same 2 months in 2019, July 2019 and October 2019, we received 3.7 million. So we're down a little over 1.3 million from where we would have been at this time last year with the same 2 payments.
So that's all in 1 quarter, right?
Well, 2 quarters. Yeah, but it would be, yes, sir. It'd be what we would have received in July and then again in October. So those would be the revenues for this time last year versus this year. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's my concern, is the state being down so much.
Correct.
And that's why I seconded the motion. If we didn't have this darn pandemic and if we didn't have this kind of situation with state government, and I'm very hopeful that it'll improve. But that's something that obviously the next commission can deal with, and they can change things anytime they want to.
And unfortunately, there's just no true way to tell. I think Mr. Russell shares my concern about that as well, and that we're probably not going to see potentially the kind of state employees back in Frankfort anytime soon like we did pre-pandemic. So, yes, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Waldridge was next, and then Commissioner Tippett.
All right, you can hear me? I think I'm off mute. So if we went with the 1% that was out there, I know that in our last meeting that we just went on and passed the budget, said we'd come back and amend, we'd given a 0.5% raise at that particular time. And I think we were pushing maybe a 1.5 at that time, but we just decided to wait to see what these numbers look like. Given that we've already given a 0.5 and now they're wanting to do the 1, it doesn't seem like it's drastic to go ahead and give that 1.5% raise to make it an even 2% raise for them. It really, I know I spoke with you earlier on the numbers. It's not really going to harm us if we did make that little bit of a jump, so we can have to say that this year we gave them a 2% full rate if we did that. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, it's roughly around a $75,000 increase to go from 1 to 1.5% to get us through the end of this year with the 17 pay periods. Yes, to get us through the end of the year. And then of course, after that, then you've got, of course, a full year, which is going to be roughly $350,000 because the 0.5% was already built into the budget, the original budget that you guys approved back in June. So yes.
Right, and so this would be in the new budget because that was already budgeted with that.
Right, full year. So we do, because it would be an ongoing expense. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I guess I was leaning more toward that 1.5 just to help out our employees and help out those that have done so hard, like Sauer shared, and the mayor also shared, just long hours. And during this COVID, as it continues, I don't think that raising that to 1.5 is something that we couldn't do at this time. I mean, I really think that it's something that we should consider to make that an even 2% raise from our last meeting of a 0.5 raise that we did give until now. So I think that's something I hope that all would consider. Thank you. I'm finished, Mayor.
Okay, Commissioner Wiseman.
Yeah, Mayor, to the point that was made, I have been pushing that we give a full 2%. I believe that considering we gave a 0.5%, giving another 1.5% now doesn't make it a full 2% for the year, because they've already went 6 months without that raise. I'd like to remind everyone that our emergency response personnel never got a single day off during this pandemic, that everyone else got to enjoy being home and being safe. They were putting their lives on the lines every day, and I think we owe them more, as much as we can possibly do, to thank them for their service. And all of our staff have been going above and beyond to keep city functioning and try to continue services as best we can. We are quick to forget that we had interruptions in service and trash pickup, but we never stopped any of the city services at all during this whole thing. So I would actually like to just make a counter motion that we go ahead and give a full 2%, if there's a second.
Oh, you want to amend?
I'll move to amend the motion to make it a full 2%, which in effect would bring up the previous 0.5% to about a 2% over the course of the rest of the 5 months of the year.
Okay, Commissioner Tippett, you had your hand up.
I just have a question, and I'm sure the staff can answer it.
Let me either
Okay.
get. Sorry, I didn't know if you're going to make a second or not. And
Can I just? Well, okay.
Yeah, you can make. I've recognized someone for a second, then we can ask questions.
Okay.
If not, I'm going to second that simply because I've had a record of supporting employee raises at much higher rates, and I do understand where we are financially. We can't do the 5% raises and the 4% raises that we typically did, but just for discussion purposes, I'll second that so it's on the table. All right, Commissioner Tippett, now you had a question.
Yeah, Mayor, I just have a question for Ms. Boyd or the staff. I don't know if they have this information readily available, but generalities will suffice. There's roughly 300 employees for the city of Frankfort. Is that generally correct?
In terms of full-time employees.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering what percentage of that 300 actually live in the community. Not that that really matters, other than the fact that what we are doing is we're putting more liquidity into our local economy with each bump. Okay, so we're really I don't want to call it a stimulus move, but it will certainly help our local economy, since I do feel like the greater percentage of our employees do recycle their disposable income back into our local economy, which comes back to us eventually. So it may be a short-term cost, but it's probably an investment on our part into the community, and I feel like probably those monies will come back to us eventually. So I'm generally supportive of the raise, and we can hash out how big it is. Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Tippett, I have no way of knowing that part of what you were asking. My apologies for that, but I don't know like the percentage of folks that live here versus don't and that type of thing. But Mr. Russell, correct me if I'm wrong, we do have approximately 330 some staff, and not all of those are full-time. There's some that are part-time, maybe, I don't know, 50 or so. Does that, and Tommy might have the numbers on those, but I don't. So my apologies for that.
It's okay.
If we're just speaking in generalities, Mayor, that's close enough to get us on board. I would just say whatever percentage you all decide on, as good as this staff is, we can make it work.
All right, Commissioner Waldridge.
Mayor, I would agree with definitely what Scott shared. I think that's a good point. And I am for whatever we can do for our employees. And I agree with, the 2% if we can do that, since we only give a 0.5 earlier. So I ask that you call for a motion, call for a vote.
Okay.
On Eric Wissman's motion.
Right.
Sorry. That's where we're at, the counter motion. Yes, I asked for you call for a vote.
Commissioner Sauer.
Yes, just clarification on the amendment. Is Commissioner Wissman raising it 1.5%, or is he raising it 2% on this motion?
This motion would make the overall raise be 2% from what we have. The second reading of the ordinance that we have today would be the 2%, which would be approximately 272,000 out of the general fund and 30,000 out of the sewer fund. Usually for every percent, it's around, that would be a $300,000 budget increase. Did that answer your question, Commissioner Sauer?
Well, if that's what Commissioner Wissman intended to raise it another full 2% or a 1.5%, which would make it actually a little over 2%.
To clarify his motion, it was
Commissioner,
2% increase.
I was motioning to make a 2% raise, which in theory, given that we have a 0.5% raise over the last almost 7 months at this point, would counterbalance to generally make the raise the effectual raise about 1.5% for the full year is my argument. Since we only gave a 0.5% for over 7 months, I'd like to make a full 2% raise at this point.
I see. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Tippett.
Couple quick questions, Mayor. Are we saying this is an across the board raise? That's what we're saying, right? So it affects every one of our employees, right? That's good. That's good clarification. And also, somebody help me with my memory. I am over 60 now. But didn't we say, like very early on in these budget negotiations, we started early in January, that we had a goal of like giving them a 2% raise? Didn't we say that? And we said we would look at the revenue streams and then decide. Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, are y'all ready for the question, or is there any more questions? Oh, Commissioner Wissman.
One clarification, Mayor, that is across the board for all of our employees, but does not apply to the commission because we are contractually limited by KRS, right? So that would only be for the city employees.
City employees, not officials. I think that's what was said.
Sorry about that. So if that's the case, the amount that I have provided does include some raise for city commission, but I knew that you guys were capped per DLG at, I think, 2.3%. So that is included in this. I just want to make everyone aware that I wasn't necessarily told not to. I was just given the cap. So every one of the amendments that you guys would have seen did include some commission salary increase, but it capped at 2.3%. Yeah, and that would also have included the 0.5% at the beginning of the budget year as well. So it did cap. I wanted you guys to be aware of that. So
Okay, because you're referring back to the Funk versus Milliken case that dealt with the annual cost of living increases for city and county officials that is computed off the December CPI, which is the average annual CPI that is closest to, obviously December is the closest average for the year. Is that correct?
I think so, sir. I mean, I know Kathy Fields, she made me, I think it was Kathy that made me aware of that. And I do recall that from my previous audit experience. I know DLG does those salary caps and things for some elected officials, but she did tell me that one of those folks over in the HR group did tell me that you guys were capped at a certain percentage. So.
Okay.
I
Laura, did
think
you want to?
2.3, so.
That's okay. Ms. Ross, what you want? I know you're dying to give us the details of Funk versus Milliken, which came up with the rubber dollar theory that officials use today, because officials are kept at $12,000 annually for larger cities and counties, and others are set. Our salary is at $7,200, but in 1949 when that case was adjudicated, they put a formula in place that it's called the rubber dollar theory that stretches that from 1940s to current dollars. Is that what you're going to say?
I couldn't have said it better myself, Mayor.
I bet you could have. I always think you say it better than me. All right, any other questions? All right, if not, clerk, please call roll on the amendment, please. There's your amendment.
This is on the amendment, correct?
On the amendment.
Okay, Commissioner Waldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Tippett,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiseman,
Yes.
Commissioner Sauer,
No, and I'd like to explain, I think our staff is working as hard as any other staff, if not harder. But I know of no unit of government, no unit of government that in these times have given their staff 0.5% and then another 2%. I think they realize, like we should, that there's going to be less income coming into this city in the next few months, because I don't see this pandemic letting up anytime soon, and I don't see state government employees coming back to Frankfort to work anytime soon. That's going to hurt us in the future.
Mayor May.
Yes, so the motion is amended. Now, the original motion would be well, exactly the same thing that we just did, but it would be for the ordinance on the 2% COLA. So I'd ask the solicitor to read that ordinance for its second reading by title and summary only, please, as amended.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 12, 2020 series appropriating the revenue to be received by the city of Frankfort for fiscal year 2020, 2021. This ordinance amends ordinance number 12, 2020 series appropriating the revenue to be received by the city for the fiscal year 2020-21 by adding the following expenditures: general fund, $45,000, women's shelter, $25,000, tourism commission, $15,000, Franklin County Schools, $5,000, general fund, $271,623.73, 2% cost of living increase. Sewer department O&M, $30,183.81, 2% cost of living increase. Capital improvements, $131,000, CAD system. Stormwater, $30,000, engineering services, and by adding the following revenue: general fund, $178,935, public transit.
All right, thank you. Are there any?
Move to approve, Mayor.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Wiseman,
Second.
second by Commissioner Waldridge. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please. I'm sorry, Commissioner Wiseman.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I was just going to say, I share Commissioner Sauer's concerns greatly, but because I know that staff is going to have to work even harder to make the dollars go even further in the next year and even longer than that, I think it's more important to focus and invest in our staff to find cost savings in other areas, which is probably unfortunately going to be, trickle down to projects in our community, and having our staff take on more of those on their own, potentially for cost saving measures. So I think this is going to be a critical step into investing and frankly probably retaining some of our staff throughout this next year or two.
All right, thank you. Clerk, please call roll.
Commissioner Waldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Tippett,
Yes, I'd like to explain my vote, please. Commissioner Sauer's points are, as always, well taken. We understand the nature of this pandemic and its effects on our revenue streams. But I think what we were deciding to do, at least this is my justification for the vote, is that we're providing much needed disposable income or liquidity immediately into the economy through our 300 and some odd employees. Now, you may say that's a minuscule amount, and it probably is, but we have to start somewhere. And who else is better positioned to support the local economy than its elected board of commissioners? It may be a gesture, but it is a good gesture. And I feel like that, as I said before, we're putting liquidity into the local economy. You know, somebody may be able to buy a hamburger from one of our local establishments because of that, and that's got to help a little bit. So that's why I'm thinking, that's why I'm saying yes, is the immediate urgency for a greater capital share into our local economy. So that's why I vote yes.
Commissioner Wiseman,
Yes.
Commissioner Sauer,
No.
Mayor May.
I vote yes, and explaining my vote just to say thanks to the commission for your deliberations on this, and all your points are well taken. For me, as mayor, you know, we work in our positions closer to staff than commission members, simply just because of the fact of the duties, especially during emergencies. And having had an opportunity over 29 years to watch our staff, it is something that it always amazes me how well our folks pull together, especially during emergency situations, to keep things running for the city. And it always pains me to hear people criticize government and talk about their tax dollars being used for whatever. And I would say these folks that are on the front lines of providing services to everyone deserve everything that we can afford to give them. And I always know that when people dial 911, they're going to get a response from the fire or police side of things, or emergency management there to look for their missing family members, and all of the folks that do all the services that people see. You know, if people don't like paying city taxes, you know, then, you know, they need to just remember when they drive down these streets, the ones that are city maintained. Of course, there are state roads that are maintained that people get confused with us, but you know, it's our street department, public works folks that are out there cleaning the drainage ditches and paving the streets, and our folks in the sewer department that are out on hot nights or cold, wet nights fixing those problems, and the whole host of things. You know, that includes our electric and water plant board folks too, who get out in dangerous situations besides our first responders. So they're all the departments. I don't want to leave anybody out, but just say that they all deserve that, and we appreciate it. So with that vote, yes. And again, to our staff, thank you all for working on getting this information to us. Ms. Boyd, thank you for those updates. Mr. Russell, thank you for those updates on that you all have looked at. City clerk and city attorney for what you all did to get this to us. And I guess I'm happy to hear that our business occupational tax being up $200,000, showing that our city is growing, regardless of what some people say. We are growing. And that allows us to have opportunities to give that back to employees who are providing those services, and who in turn, as Commissioner Tippett said, we'll go back and spend that here in the community. So if that's the last item on the agenda, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Moved by Commissioner Waldridge,
Second.
second by Commissioner Sauer. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Okay, ayes have it. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.